I don't think he ever understood or even cares that he cost me $16 million and ended my career. When Bill Goldberg kicked me in the head and ended my career, it was such a lousy way to go because I didn't know my career was over. And when I did go home, and it took me a year to find out that my career was over. And right around the time I found out that I couldn't, my doctors told me that I could never wrestle again. Then the WCW fired me, and from the day I got hurt, my $1 million salary got cut. Every week it got cut in half, and got cut in half, and got cut in half, and kept getting cut in half till there was nothing left. And then they just fired me, which was such a lousy deal. I had, when I was in WWE, I had a insurance policy through Vince that, even if I slipped in the shower, I was totally covered. My contract was paid in full. But when I signed with WCW, they gave me an insurance policy with Lloyd's of London. And if you know anything about Lloyd's of London, they don't like to pay anybody. They like those premiums. They like you to keep paying those, but when it comes time to settle up and pay when they're supposed to, they are total bull. And they would not pay me, and I had to sue them, and I had to go through court. And I think when looking back on those times, I was concussed so badly that I really couldn't really digest that my career was over, and sort of get my head around it. Part of me was like, finally, I'm free. I don't have to go anywhere this weekend, and I can be home, and you like being home, but when you have a concussion like the one I had, I remember I couldn't watch TV, I couldn't listen to music, I couldn't, I had even food. I can remember my whole diet, everything that I would eat, I had no, you could have the best steak in the world and it tasted like liver, and nothing really mattered. I remember I remember my doctor described it to me as kind of like all the places that make you happy in your brain, that's the part that got whacked. That's the part that got kicked really hard. And, I didn't really understand it or take it all in so much at the time, but, I got hurt by Goldberg, and he called me 8 months after it happened and told me that he was sorry, which, really was irrelevant at that point. He never once called me after it happened, or I don't think he ever understood, or I don't know that he even does now or even cares that he honestly cost me $16 million in 2 seconds and ended my career. And when I hear about Bill Goldberg going to Saudi Arabia making $3 million for a 10-minute match in Saudi Arabia, I go, you think he would have called me up and said, here, I'm going to send you something for it. But he's never thought of me once since he got hurt, or since I got hurt. And it bothers me a little bit to see all these guys go there and make enormous sums of money for a couple minutes work. I don't know. I have a lot of respect for Daniel Bryan, who didn't go. I don't know that I would have gone. I don't know that I wouldn't have. It's it was a lot of money, $3 million to a pro wrestler, especially Goldberg, who went there and wrestled for 10 minutes. And, it's a big paycheck. So, if someone offered me the same thing, I don't know if I would have turned it down or I would have accepted it. Anyway, I didn't really have a chance to digest a lot of what happened to me. And I never really had I was always very angry inside. And then, of course, I know everyone knows too much about my stroke, but I had my stroke about a year or two after I got hurt, a little over a year and a half after I got injured with a concussion. I suffered a stroke riding my bicycle in Calgary on a bike path. And I think, when I suffered the stroke, it was definitely tied in with my concussion injury. But that for sure was the end of my career. It's like any thought of ever going back or burying the hatchet with Vince, or my concussion sort of slowly getting better, enough that I could have some kind of a match or do something, that was impossible at that point. And I think when I remember being in my hospital bed and being in a wheelchair those first 5 or 6 days. It was like really, just really powerfully struck me how I'll never walk out to the wrestling crowd with the hands out and stuff like that. So I was very, I took all that like really bad. I didn't like that, and I realized that when I had my stroke, I think that there was a part of me that realized that it doesn't do you any good. Like if I was going to give advice to everybody out there, it's like when you suffer something really huge happens in your life in a negative way, and you hate somebody and you're so angry about it, it doesn't do you any good to carry it around all the time. You know, I carried it around. I always liken it to carrying a big bag of rocks around. It was like every day I had to pick up these bag of rocks about how I'm mad at Vince McMahon and the screw job. And, you know, you lug it around every day. And then, of course, I had the stroke. And so it's like, I realized after I had my stroke, after about a year, maybe the first year, or maybe this going into like a year after, it's like how lucky I was that I got the recovery that I did have. And I learned the hard way that it doesn't do any good to carry around a lot of grief.